force a president into office. The next thing you would want to do is to, take the system down so that no one believes in the system anymore. So I said, all right, they're going to force a president into office. And then I hear the call of this W. I knew the meaning of W. I had just recently found the meaning of W because I was trying to understand corporate logos. I had been through all the gas stations. I understood the pentagram of Texaco, the shell of Shell, as symbols of Venus or Lucifer. I knew that Target's sun sign was a sexual symbol. I knew that Walmart's pentagram were all connected. But what did Phillips 66 mean? I didn't get that. But very simply, I just went to a magician's dictionary, opened it up, and said, what's number 66 mean? And it's the number of the Quillipoth in magic, the number of the dark side of magic. It was the number of evil. And in Hebrew, V is 6. And so very quickly I transliterated 66 into VV. And this totally opened up a whole new ball of worms, because next bag of worms or can of worms or any of that, because all of a sudden I'm looking at Hitler's cars, the Volkswagen. The Volkswagen was crafted for Hitler's warfare. And I'm realizing that that's not V and W, that's two V's interlaced. Well, when you take 6 and 6, and you put 6 and 6 together and cross them, you get 666. So all of a sudden Volkswagen means 666. And then I happened to notice that the Philips logo actually had 6 points on its crest, another coded 666. So as I saw this coming down the pike and I heard the story of this W, I said he's going to be the one. They're going to force W into office because he's the magic. He's the dark one. He's the evil one that's going to bring down this whole idea of America. I was right. And they did force him into office just as I had expected. So at this point, I'm like, oh, God, what do I know? What do I know? All throughout the Clinton era, we were watching this thing known as the Homeland Security Act. And that's what we called it. They were trying to create a Homeland Security in America. And, of course, all the patriots were up in arms about it. But this came up to bill every October, in the beginning of October, every year during the Clinton era. Every year, it was shut down. Every year, they were like, hell no, that's the most unconstitutional bill I've ever heard of. So in this way, I knew that they were going to need a reason. They were obviously going to need a reason to force this thing into action. Every time it came up, they shut it down. So when they railroaded the W into office, that was when I knew. Now, if you know the story of Dune, then you'll understand our story a little more, because Bush is like the evil emperor's son, and Obama as the good emperor's son. He was here to soften us all up, and now Obama's coming to save us. So when the W was railroaded into office, I said, there's going to be a major terrorist attack to forward this Homeland Security bill. And I knew that it would take about 2 weeks of people's reaction time for the event. So I said in the middle of September there's going to be a major terrorist attack in 2001. I had been talking about it for a number of years because I expected it all during the Clinton era. But when the W was forced into office, I knew that would be it. So I went, and just like a group of people like you, and I said, hey, there's going to be a major terrorist attack on 9/11. And I chose that date because that was the date HW announced the New World Order for the first time publicly. And I know how ritual these people are. So I chose that date just basically random, but knowing that there was a purpose to it. And saying, okay, on 9/11 there's going to be a major terrorist attack. Don't freak out. This is for your reaction. Those were my words. And when it happened, I actually had a whole line of people at my door going, how did you know? And I don't know how I know. I'm just following the script that I believe, that I understand. And so I'm coming to give you the rest of this story because I followed that prediction up with, well, W will be the last American president. Now, one thing I want to get over to you is how miraculous the story has been. And I think it's in the miracles of how this all falls together that makes it really the true story. Because if I were just giving you this data and facts and everything and saying, well, this is just the science that I've been figuring out, it's not. I have not gone looking for any of this information. It keeps coming and finding me, and I feel like I am required to share it with you. Because when I had the 9/11 prediction, I didn't tell anyone. I told people at a party, And I think I might have been able to change the world if I had said something. So I have new predictions for you, and I've continued with my predictions, and I have not been wrong yet. My latest one was public. It was on 10/13. And I decided to make this one public just to test my hypothesis and make it all public. No one seemed to notice. So I, for 2 years, went around talking about 10/13 and explaining the significance of this to the Templars. And then on 10/13, as I predicted, I never know what's going to happen. And that's where I hope people will take my knowledge and apply it to a more real-world scenario. Because I didn't know they were going to hit the Twin Towers. I just knew they needed a terrorist attack and that they'd do it on this day. 10/13, I could have put together, I could have realized that 10/13 is the day the Templars were all killed. In 1307, Pope Clement and King Philip came together and said, let's kill off these Templars. They're too rich and powerful. And it was on 10/13 that they killed the Templars. So this is a ritual date for the Templars, and the Templars are the prefab of the Freemasons that are ruling our nation today. So I used their dates to make my predictions because I'm watching them. And it wasn't simply that 10/13 was just there. If you notice, the Pentagon's cornerstone was dated to 9/11, 1941. It just happened to be hit on 9/11, 2001. And I did have data showing that the Twin Towers cornerstone, which was Masonically laid in both cases, also was dated to 9/11. And actually just realized that Captain William Morgan, who exposed the Freemasons for the first time and was ritually murdered back in the 1700s, was also killed on 9/11. Just a curious little connection there. So when I looked at these things, I was saying, okay, here's the date, here's the ritual date. And if I had taken it one step further and recognized the Templar connection with the fiat currency, I could have given you a fuller projection of what was going to happen. And sure enough, on 10/13, that was the day when Bernanke and Paulson pulled all the 9 CEOs of all the banks together and said, you've got to sign these documents, signing over all your assets, and that's when the finances collapsed. And their headline in the Austin Chronicle, of all places, says, 10/13 bigger than 9/11. And I'm like, yeah, I know, I've been saying this for 2 years now, you know. I was on talking with the High Priest Church of Satan. 10/13. You can watch all that on freemantv.com. I have all of this stuff live on my websites, freemantv.com or the freemanperspective.blogspot.com, and you can watch me talking about all of this. So I start with this man, and I start to understand that there is a list. There's a list of enemies that we're going to have to deal with, and the first was the Red Scare. And this list comes from a Nazi that came over and joined NASA. And just happened to be hanging out with Walt Disney. If you know who Walt Disney is, man, you'll start to get a good clue as to what's going on. Werner von Braun was a Nazi scientist brought over here to help NASA get into space. He came out and said, look, the extraterrestrials are malevolent. The governments are trying to have a war with the extraterrestrials that are trying to visit us. Do not allow them to weaponize space. And he started the Space Preservation Treaty, which Denis Kucinich is a champion of. And they're like, you know, keep the weapons out of space. This is the whole thing. So he says, all right, what's going to happen is they're going to hit you with the Red Scare, the Cold War, and that's going to start the whole agenda of the technological advancements into space war. Then they're going to hit you with terrorism, which is what came next. But they, you know, most people believe that the next part of the program is extraterrestrials. But that's not what Werner von Braun said. He said the next step is asteroids. And so I took this data and I watched as just currently Obama decides to couple the DoD with NASA. And this is exactly what Werner von Braun was talking about. So what they're doing now is coupling NASA with the DoD. They're going to retire the space shuttles. The shuttle Atlantis just launched last May 11th. And the Endeavour is waiting to launch just in case the Atlantis has problems. They're going up to the Hubble Space Shuttle or Space Telescope and hoping to